Let's bring on Joshua. Josh, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Chris? How you doing, Sergio?
Excellent, Josh. Josh is not a stranger to Show Me the Money. He's been on before. I don't know, a year ago, maybe more. Yeah, something like that. But we love having guests who have the info, the actual info, and they can help other states do what they did in Seattle, specifically now Washington State. So Josh is with Teamsters Local 117 up there. Josh, introduce yourself a little bit, and then what I want to do is we have maybe 20 minutes. So I want to break it into 5-minute segments because I want to talk to you, 4 or 5 different topics. So go ahead.
Well, it's great to be here, Joshua, from Teamsters Local 117. We're affiliated with Drivers Union, which is the voice for rideshare drivers in Washington State. Thousands of drivers coming together to win better pay, deactivation protections, benefits like paid sick time and paid family and medical leave. And just happy to be here with y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start right off the bat there. I get a lot of emails I get thousands, but a lot of people, we're looking for leaders in their own cities and states, right? Not everybody's cut out to be a leader, but when I do get an email and they say, how are they doing? How'd they do this in Seattle? How'd they do this in Washington State? What is their playbook? What can I do? Do I go to the city council? Do I do this? Do I do that? So, well, from the horse's mouth, Josh, you tell them a little bit about the playbook, how you all started with Washington Drivers Union. Now I'm hearing actually there is a Portland Drivers Union, right? Which one of our amazing members is leading that charge. But, it happens because drivers first come together, I guess, and then they turn for help to you guys. So how did that work out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got it right on the nose. It happens with, first of all, not just complaining about things that you don't like, but connecting up with other drivers in your community, connecting up with existing labor unions that can help with some political connection strategy, and then bringing your case to the people who can make decisions right about it, whether that be at your local city council or at your state legislature, depending on the particular dynamics at play in your state. Start by coalescing around what are the main 1, 2, 3 issues that you want to see improvements on. Maybe it's establishing a fair pay standard. Maybe it's about deactivation protections. But start with 1 victory, 2 victory. Each victory, then propels you forward up the ladder.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have to also keep in mind that Uber and Lyft have strong lobbies, right? I mean, they're going to fight you tooth and nail for things that drivers want, because what drivers want is usually what Uber and Lyft don't want. But it worked out in Seattle, in Washington State specifically. And then I know what Uber's playbook is, right? Uber's playbook is pass Prop 22-ish clones like they did in Massachusetts. Now they have it in New York State, obviously California. That's their playbook, right? It's pretty obvious. And Prop 22 is not a beneficial thing to the drivers. So what happens when the Washington Drivers Union, came to you guys, and then obviously you have connections at the city level and the state level, and they asked for your help, I'm assuming, right?
Absolutely. That's right.
Okay. So how long of a process was this, by the way, from start to where you have what you guys have now? Because for my money, Seattle, Washington State in general has the best pay, best benefits package, and a lot of drivers want to stay independent contractors, right? And it seems like they have best of both worlds. And so how long did that take to go from where they started as a Washington Drivers Union to where you guys are today?
Well, I mean, look, it's been a 10-year plus campaign, because folks started from the early days. But that being said, it doesn't mean that it's going to take 10 years from where you're at, wherever you're at. You build off of the building blocks that have been created in other parts of the country. So, drivers started organizing together. The first piece of legislation was collective bargaining in 2015, passed in the city of Seattle. There was a fair pay standard that passed in 2019, deactivation protections. There were some pandemic era benefits like paid sick time that passed during that time. A lot of work around unemployment insurance during the pandemic that, established a foundation. And then expanding statewide in 2022 with statewide pay raises, again, a deactivation process, workers' compensation if you're injured while working, survivor death benefits. And then the latest addition to the package has been paid family and medical leave, which is getting implemented now. And it's a powerful benefit, up to 12 weeks paid time off if you have a serious health condition that prevents you from working, or if you need to take time off of work to care for someone with a serious health condition or the birth of a new child. So that's the latest that's been added. Over 2,400 drivers have enrolled in the past 6 months in that program. So, building blocks, it might take you a year or two, to win your first a piece of legislation, maybe, where depending on the where you're at, you don't win it all in one foul swoop.
Okay, so I have two tougher questions now. Look, a lot of drivers, I'm in touch with thousands of drivers, but a few of them are from Seattle, Washington State, and they email me. They ask me this question. I'm just going to send it out your way. Over the last couple of years, so the reason, they're saying, they're sending me these questions is because they're go like, Sergio, it's not what you think it is. It's not all, rose-colored glasses, and we're not making $50 an hour because there are all these benefits, all this high pay, right? A lot of people are joining the driving force and driving, so markets are oversaturated in Seattle. They're not making what they used to make. That's one question. The other question is, so when you talk about this massive package of benefits, which I feel like Washington drivers, rideshare drivers, we're not talking delivery now, rideshare drivers have probably like close to 70, maybe 80% of a W-2 package that you would receive at a full-time W-2 job, okay? Well, Uber is not going to pay for any of this. We know that, right? And they're going to raise the fares on the riders, right? And elasticity obviously is important. If the fares are too high, demand is going to go down, and then the utilization rates are going to go down. So those two questions. Are the markets oversaturated because people just driving in droves because the pay is good and the benefits are good? And what's happening with demand in Seattle, specifically Washington State?
Well, thanks, Sergio. The drivers that you're hearing from are right. There's too many drivers out on the road because the companies keep on onboarding new drivers at a faster rate than trips are growing, right? So just in the last year, for example, driver onboarding in King County was increasing more than 12 times faster than trips were growing, right? Wow. So that's a big problem, right? And it's a big problem that still needs to be addressed. And, quite frankly, around the country hasn't been fully addressed, anywhere. You see, in New York, they've got the lockouts. You've seen, in other places. How are the companies responding to new regulations? There's more that needs to be done. And driver oversaturation, by the way, is not just a problem for the driver. When the driver is, circling the block in between trips, waiting for that, next ping to come in, that's unnecessary vehicle miles traveled on the road, adds to, climate impacts as well as congestion on the roadway. That's, unnecessary. So, more needs to be done on that issue of driver oversupply, without a doubt. There comes to be a time when, you can have a market that's imbalanced, right? And you need to have that right balance between the driver supply and the rider demand to make sure that the trip, gets fulfilled, but the driver is, busy and fairly compensated. So, these two things don't have to be in conflict with the, kind of right balance of policies.
Yeah, one thing about oversaturation that I believe that I see quite often, Seattle has the best rates. Washington State has the best rates in the country. By the way, they're not on upfront fares. They're on time and distance. Okay, people? That's one plus right there. But what is there is oversaturation in cities that still have a rate card of 65 cents a mile. You know what I'm saying? So oversaturation, I believe, has a lot to do with the macroeconomic conditions more than, people want to make money because they get laid off. What are they going to do? No easy barriers to entry, right? You just sign up and upload a few documents. You're making something. I'm not saying you're profitable or this and that. So that's the oversaturation argument that I'm not kind of buying, because it's so good that everybody's signing up to drive. No, it's the economy, stupid. People need to drive. I mean, that's one. So how about the other issue as far as elasticity? And fares have gone up, obviously. Uber is going to pass it on. Look, Uber always passes the hikes on. They give up something, but then the fares go up. Fares go up, demand goes down. I've spoken to Uber about this, and they said demand is not back to where it was before the pandemic. But then I said that maybe because there is work at home and there are a lot of IT layoffs, and Seattle up there, a lot of big IT town there. So what do you say to that when Uber says, yeah, fares are too high and people are not riding and we're not back to pre-pandemic demand levels?
Well, I mean, for sure, fares are too high. I mean, I think we're seeing this around the country. And, Uber and Lyft really should look in the mirror with that criticism, right? Because, I mean, every single day we can, I'm preaching to the choir here, but, we can, look at the trips where Uber's taken 30, 40, 50% or more, right, of what the customer pays. Where's that average, take rate? Of course, they're going to complain about their expenses, their, insurance, but, as you, preach on this channel and are right about it, drivers have expenses too, right? Yep. The insurance costs have been going up on our side of the ledger as well. So, these two issues, right? What is the rider being charged and what is the driver being paid? Two sides of the same coin, right? You're not going to have any arguments that the riders are being overcharged, right? That is an issue that exists, not only in Seattle, it exists around the country.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to hop on to these next two topics. Look, I know you're not a lawyer, but we're going to have David on to talk more extensively about this FTC clarification, I call it. I'm not going to call it a ruling. They clarified something in there, and I'm sure you're aware of it. I'm not expecting you to be an expert on it, but what is your opinion on it, on this latest FTC clarification on collective bargaining?
Yeah, well, Sergio, I've got you to blame that I read the policy statement. No, I'm glad I did. But I got kind of four key takeaways, Sergio. I mean, one, it's a good thing, right? The FTC is, clarifying that when rideshare drivers, other gig economy workers come together, right, to act to improve things for themselves, that that is not something that the FTC is going to come down on in an antitrust fashion, right? So that's a good thing. But, to kind of takeaway number two is don't read too much into it, right? Yep. For a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, this is, a Biden FTC on the way out the door. What's the Trump FTC going to do? And by the way, the policy statement, is very specific that it's not going to stop the companies from doing what they are going to do, or, any other party from saying, bringing their own, legal challenges. And we're seeing what they're doing in Colorado. They did something similar in with a Seattle deactivation law for delivery side, recently. So other actors beyond the FTC are going to have their own approaches. So number two, don't read too much into it, right? Number three, don't wait out for the FTC or anybody else. As good as I'm glad about Alina Khan FTC, wish you were staying. But don't wait for someone to save you, right? Yep. We are those that we're waiting for, right? Yep. Statement number four, and it kind of comes back to the beginning of conversation, or takeaway number four, Sergio, is that change is possible when drivers come together and organize. And we're seeing more and more of that. We don't want, we got enough drivers in Seattle. Don't move to Seattle. That's not the way to change your life. Organize with drivers together. and create change where you are, it is possible. We're seeing more and more of that in, whether it be in Chicago, whether it be in, Minnesota, Colorado, as you mentioned, New York. And so organize together with drivers where you're at to make changes.
One thing I always say is work smarter, not harder. If you aren't using the Solo app, then you may be working harder. So let's change that. Download the app, link your accounts where you can manage your income, track your expenses, and project your taxes. Not only that, but you can plan by optimizing your time, make more, and even guarantee your daily pay with guaranteed earnings. Download Solo and begin to work smarter, not harder today. Link is in the description. All right, let's get back to it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And last but not least, let's before you give me your latest stats of what the Washington Drivers Union in combination with the Teamsters was able to extend some of these benefits and some stats, parting stats, let's say, quickly, couple of minutes, touch on. I know you heard about the Colorado Uber lawsuit, 51 pages of it, which I had to read, which 50 of it was garbage, which was like, they go like First Amendment. I'm like, what does that have to do with the thing? But yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Boo-hoo-hoo, played the violin. But what is your opinion about that lawsuit that's just trying to kill the transparency bill?
Well, look, and I heard the driver you had on the corner at the end of last week's show. Mm-hmm. I think he hit the nail on the head. With it, it's kind of delay tactics, right? We'll see if they're successful in it. They filed a similar lawsuit against the Seattle delivery deactivation protections. Yep. And the judge was pretty upset with them for doing it and denied their request for a restraining order to block the implementation of the law. So the law is being implemented. We'll see what happens in Colorado. But, the idea that a corporation is saying that it's against their free speech, First Amendment rights to have to comply with the law, it feels pretty laughable to me. But hey, I'm not an attorney, so don't take my word for it.
Yeah. So in parting, thank you, first of all, for coming on. We always enjoy having you on. But, tell us a little bit about the latest editions, which you just kind of hinted on, about the sick leave and some stats that you had sent me, which my fault. I forgot to send it to Chris. There was a slide there. Next time we'll do it. Or we'll post it on our community page. That's on me. So what's happening? What's going on?
Well, look, I mean, I'll give you a few stats. Since Washington drivers passed the first in the nation just cause protections against an unfair deactivation, more than 1,500 drivers have been reactivated under that law, and the drivers union has been able to win back pay totaling more than 7.1 million. For drivers who've been deactivated. So that's an amazing thing for those drivers who have been able to get their jobs back, right? There's been an additional 3.9 million that drivers union has been able to secure through labor standards enforcements with local regulators, whether that be around sick time or probably another time we could get into a whole deal about Lyft's rental program or other things. But so labor standards enforcement has been some big wins. And then I mentioned the newest one, paid family and medical leave. Earlier today, I was on the phone with drivers who are literally going back home to their home countries to spend time with a newborn baby and getting paid for it, right? More than 2,400 drivers and counting have now enrolled in that first in the nation paid family and medical leave program. So we're pretty proud of that and want to keep those numbers pumping up.
Yeah, well, if you keep having these benefits and high pay, there's more drivers are going to sign up, I have a feeling. But to me, it's quality over quantity. I'd rather the one trip for $50 an hour than 10 trips for $50 an hour, period. But we'll see where it goes. Well, Joshua, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Always great information. And we'll keep in touch, obviously. And, I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Sergio. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Have a good one.
All right, thanks for watching. That short little clip was from our live stream, Show Me the Money Club with Sergio and myself, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you subscribe, turn on all notifications so you get notified when we go live, as well as all of our awesome content. Make sure to check out this video right here, which will take you to the entire live stream, or check out this video right there. All right, drive smart, everyone.